A second way you can determine whether two functions are inverses is to plug this first function into the second function, and if you simplify that and it equals x, then you also need to plug the second function into the first, then see if that is equal to 0, then you can, see if it's equal to x, then both of those functions are going to be inverses. So for example 3, we're given f of x equals x squared plus 1, and for g of x is equal to the square root of x minus 1. So in order to determine whether these are inverses, what we can do is we can find f of the inverse of x. So we can do this right here. And then we can also find the inverse of f of x. So basically what we have to find is we need to plug in, we need to find f of g of x. So when we plug these in, hopefully it equals x at the end. So we take our f of x function, and we're going to take our g of x, and we're going to plug this in for the x of our f of x. So we're going to say in parentheses, we're going to have the square root of x minus 1, and that's going to be squared, plus 1. So if we simplify this, we should get rid of the square root and the square. Those cancel each other out. So you end up with an x minus 1, and then you have this plus 1 at the end. So the negative 1 and the positive 1 cancel, so you're left with just an x. Now, just because f of g of x equals x doesn't necessarily mean that g of f of x is going to work out. So you need to test that also. So we need to find g of f of x. So in this case, we're plugging f of x into the g function. So we're going to have the square root of x squared plus 1 and then we're going to have our minus 1 underneath here. So if you get rid of these of the parentheses after your substitution, then your 1 and your negative 1 are going to end up and cancel out. So this 1 and this negative 1 will cancel. You're going to end up getting the square root of x squared. And the square root of x squared ends up just equaling x. So since each function, when you plug it into the other function, when you simplify they get x, then that means that g of x and f of x are functions. So f of x and g of x are functions. And there you go.